Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. Go see Chad and his buddies, and they will help you out with health insurance. It'll be a nice way to enter the new year with some peace of mind and maybe a few more dollars in your pocket as well. Go see NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. Kansas City Chiefs put intrigue back in a game that looked like it was going to be a walkover. Kind of a bookend game for the Kansas City Chiefs as they started off pretty poorly. Walloped the Miami Dolphins during the middle portions of the game and then kind of hung on for dear life. Never really maybe in that much danger, but still, they continue to make games maybe a little bit more interesting than they need to be. That creates things to talk about for us as well. And, of course, the football weekend wound down for the colleges. Kansas didn't play their final game. Kansas State was done the week before. They'll probably be playing in a bowl game because a lot of teams are opting out now, 3 from the ACC also. And the Missouri Tigers ended, they've still got one more game left against Mississippi State, which is nice because they got absolutely crushed by Georgia, hanging in there for a little bit, but then the pedigree showed of the Georgia Bulldogs who did come to play, and certainly Missouri still in a successful mode with one more chance to pick up another win, but the litmus test against Georgia, maybe as should be expected, did not go so well. Those are all things that are on the plate with Stan Weber. It comes your way next, right here on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast, and right here at DannyClinkscale.com. It's time now to get some great assistance on healthcare with Chad Beisel from NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. And Chad, even your business's name would indicate that you have a real aggressive way and an important way to go after some health insurance for your clients.
What I've found out in the industry is just a lot of people are really confused. They don't know what plans are good, what their plans offer, how they cover. And so I've just taken the approach of being really educated on what options are available to clients and showing them all the options that are available and making sure they understand them so they can pick and choose what options are good for them.
And one thing that's really important, of course, is access to doctors and hospitals.
Absolutely. That's become a big issue for a lot of people. Some of the plans out there are going to restrict those clients to where they can and cannot go. So if you live just outside the Kansas City metro, some of the counties outside, you may not be able to go to some of the hospitals up here in the Kansas City area. So making sure that you have a plan that's got doctors and hospitals and places you want to go is really, really important today.
Learn more by visiting NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com and let Chad help you. I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Vision's goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson and Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Stan Weber on assignment as he will hit the road to Ames, Iowa. So for the first time in a while on the podcast, maybe the first time ever we've done one on the phone. Stan, good to talk football on this Monday. And for a little while yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs might looked like they might be in a little bit of trouble. Then it looked like we wouldn't have that much to talk about because they were walloping the Miami Dolphins. And then, unfortunately, well, they won, and now they're the number one seed as Pittsburgh lost last night, and we'll get into that a little bit. But they just have a little bit of trouble putting away opponents. Should this be a concern? I mean, it's quite another quality team. They won the game. They didn't really have to stress out. They did have to hand the ball back to their offense to finish off the job. How concerning should we be that the Chiefs now have, well, they never cover, and they make the games interesting?
I don't have too much worry right now. I look at it all on a relative basis of where the Chiefs are compared to the opponents, those kind of things, because it's going to be a race in the playoffs. We know that the Chiefs won the division for the fifth straight time. Remember, until this run of five straight, they'd never won back-to-back division championships in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs. So pretty amazing. We're posting number 5 out, and let's move on to other things. But it is okay to move on to other things in this year. The Super Bowl champs are playing, and they've only lost one game. And start of the week or a week and a half ago, however you want to look at it, you're looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers undefeated and saying, you're the number 2 seed, you better get going. No room for error and all those kind of things. Don't coast down the stretch. And not so much of a factor right now. The Steelers are really hurting, lost 2 games. The Chiefs now control things and have that number 1 seed really in grasp. So you look at the opponents, I think, Danny, and you say, where are they compared to the Chiefs? And while the Chiefs have given you plenty of reason to say, man, I could see a concern here or there, or a close game occurring in the playoffs that might scare us when the Chiefs are better than everyone else. I think the differential between the Chiefs and the next best team in the AFC is greater now than it was a month ago or 2 months ago. I remember when we thought the Baltimore Ravens were a real risk to the Chiefs and are playing at a high level, and now they're hoping to get in the playoffs. They're not in the first 7 as we speak today. So I don't think there's a lot of concern. Now, the thing that happened in the ball game, the real interesting thing is that the Chiefs turned it over 4 times, and things didn't go Patrick Mahomes' way just magically. When he took that sack of 30 yards, I go, whoa! I'm sitting there, whoa! I've never seen him get caught before. I've never seen him. He always is able to get out of something. I was expecting a 20-yard game as he rolled backwards toward the goal line.
Did you know that's the largest sack in NFL history?
Yeah, I had heard that, and I know there was a 29-yard sack that was much more famous because a young Danny Clinkscale was rooting for Bob Lilly to beat those Miami Dolphins back in New Orleans in the Super Bowl in January of 1972 in the 71 season. And it kind of reminded me of that. As he worked his way backwards, you could understand why he kept retreating, both Bob Lilly chasing down Bob Greasy, and this time I could see why Mahomes kept going backwards, but I never thought he'd get tripped up. Did you? Mm-hmm. I mean, it seemed like
no, it never happens. You expect him to get out of it, and then it turns into a completely disastrous play, and actually did lead to a score for Miami as well eventually. But it's just that what we saw in this game was the fact that the magical things that Patrick Mahomes does are not always going to happen. He really didn't think on the first intercept. First of all, I'm sure he didn't think he was going to get tripped up. And on the first interception, he didn't think the defensive lineman could get up off the ground fast enough and threw it right to him, basically. Bounced off his hands and ended up being a deflection and an interception. and then he just overthrew a ball when he was on the run, which he routinely doesn't do. And then a guy made a spectacular play, although he throws some risky passes and trusts Tyreek Hill, and on this occasion the DB made a play. So it's just not always going to happen, but he still ended up with a quarterback rating around 100 while throwing 3 interceptions, which is almost impossible to do.
Yeah, Dick Vermeil would tell us there, chances of winning go down almost to 0 if you lose a turnover battle by 3 and you turn the ball over 4 times. But then he might go back to his math and say, well, you have a punt return for a touchdown. That oftentimes spins things on their head in the National Football League. But I think the big story was that Patrick Mahomes threw 3 interceptions. However it happened, the 30-yard sack, I would include that in there as just an unbelievable play that doesn't go against the Chiefs. I could not project that happening again. I don't think he's been figured out or getting into bad habits or any of those things. So to me, I think of the Miami Dolphin game as if he wouldn't have turned over the ball, the Chiefs would have won easily. When they did play their good football in the second and third quarter, they dominated the Dolphins, and they overcame all the negativity at the front end, which they wouldn't have if they wouldn't have had those interceptions and sacks. And then they went ahead and won the ball game at the end. They ran out the clock to kick the field goal in a 4-minute situation again, which is all positive. So the positives outweigh the negatives easily, and then you take away some of the junk that you don't normally see, and you add another 10 points on, or however you want to place that, and then Chiefs win easily. So I was not as worried about that game. I thought that was more about the Dolphins to show us that this is not a great football team. Tua is not anything more than a game manager who is avoiding turning over the football, and they are an up-and-coming football team that plays pretty good defense. So the Dolphins aren't ready for prime time. They're not in the Chiefs league. That was a story to me, which might make you have some concern, Danny, about where the Chiefs are and talking about this 5-game stretch. You may even want to remember the Raiders game where they lost at home. But the fact is, everyone else is getting worn out, injured. I don't know if there's COVID fatigue or what there is, but the teams are not playing very well. You can say the Colts are getting a little bit better. You can definitely say the Buffalo Bills are becoming a bigger threat. But that is way outweighed by the fact that Pittsburgh going away and struggling to get a first down. Receivers dropping the ball everywhere. Ben looking like he can't move in the pocket. He needs to hit the eject button immediately. Injuries all over the place on the defense, not locking down like they were. I mean, sure, Pittsburgh has a great coach and a quarterback who are not going to be nervous about playing in the playoffs, and I think they'll be dangerous. But, 2 months ago, I thought the Ravens and Steelers were going to be really hard teams for the Chiefs to match up with and beat. The Chiefs are better, but, we're going to get ready for some big-time NFL playoff football. But right now, I think the Chiefs are a lot better than the Steelers, a lot better than the Ravens. And now you start asking yourself, are you really concerned about the Bills, the Titans, the Colts? I mean, who's your team to worry about right now? I just say the differential between where the Chiefs are today and where the other teams are today is greater than it's been at any time in the season. So it's a little hard for me to get upset or concerned about what the Chiefs are doing. They've gone through a pretty hard part of their schedule. They got one more. That game at New Orleans lines up as a feature game for the National Football League. But I think it's big that they win the game at the end, Danny. They could have dumped that thing and messed up and lost that game, and they didn't. They drove the ball when they needed to. Did they run? No. Can they run the clock out? No. They're going to have to throw. Incomplete passes come into play, stopping the clock, giving the other team 40 seconds, all those things. There's no problem, Danny, for the fans who want to be concerned and worry because you got to win the Super Bowl this year. I mean, the pressure is immense. They cannot lose a playoff game when they're this much better than everybody else in the NFL. So that is scary, and I'm all for that level of concern. But overall, if you take a deep step backwards, the Chiefs are better than everyone else by more than they've ever been all season long.
I wanted to know if you sense this a little bit, and maybe I'm looking for things, but after the game, maybe the first time I've ever seen a slight bit, and this is by his standards, when Tracy Wolfson talked about the 3 interceptions and said, what did they do to, maybe cause you a little problem on defense? This was what Patrick Mahomes said. He said, well, the first one was a tipped ball, and the second one was a tipped ball. I don't know. I didn't see that one getting tipped. And the third one was just an awesome play by, and he named the defensive back. I used a nickname for him. It was almost like he said, hey, that wasn't my fault, those 3. Did you First of all, did you see the interview, which came just a few minutes after the game? And secondly, did you get that sense that I did?
Well, I didn't see that interview, but what you said is very consistent with what I heard from another interview that he had post-game, and he didn't seem concerned or down at all and kind of tapped, the old tap me like that's on me. I'm very happy about my teammates overcoming my mistakes and finding a way to win. I did not hear that kind of mentality at all. Now, I do not think that gives me a level of concern, but it is worth noting, right? I think what you said is let's watch how this goes down if he were to have other games. Is he going to refuse to say I'm a problem, or is it just he's got a confident level and he's got his head on straight? I generally think it's still not a negative at all and could even be made a positive, Danny, because I think what he is saying is we're here to win the game.
Right.
You're not going to break my confidence. You're not going 3 interceptions, 30-yard sack. You think I want to dwell on that stuff? That's kind of encouraging, Danny, because we keep thinking that this is a record-breaking time, that the stats need to light it up so that we can say he's the greatest quarterback ever. It's video game-like in how much fun it is. I thought it was possibly a real positive that he's not doing the old, however wants to go, well, he's on a pace of going 45-2, 45 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, or, this is going to be one of the greatest seasons ever, and all the. I'm kind of glad that he's not talking about the 5,000 yards or the 50 touchdowns or I only threw 2 interceptions. Really, you can't get caught up in that. You got to think about what's at hand, and that's winning the game. So I thought that comment led to a response before you even mentioned it, but you add to it, Danny, and confirm what I thought I heard. I could take this and shoot to a strong level and say his reaction was perfect and made me feel better about him, or you could look at it and say, let's wait till the next time it happens and see if there's a little concern, because you're looking for anything. The guy's been so perfect.
Yep.
I generally lent on the positive, Danny. I actually thought that was a positive, that he cared about winning more than the 3 interceptions.
I guess
that's a disaster.
Yeah, I guess
2 to 5.
I guess my point is that he is fully willing to say he made mistakes in games where he's absolutely almost flawless and point out, well, I wasn't perfect today. I could have hit that throw. I could have hit that throw. But in this game, when he wasn't, he almost wasn't accepting that, which I guess in some cases is probably pretty good. You hear that in golf a lot. Guys will, never say that it's their fault. But we'll see what happens moving.
That's good. It's good to ask the question, though, Danny, because you're looking for trend lines. And when guys get through adversity, how do they handle adversity? And really, come on. What adversity has he had that he didn't get to snap the ball against Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game, or that they didn't score in the first half? That's kind of the adversity he's had as a Chief. So let's watch that, because when you want to put up a little fire starts burning and suddenly the house is on fire, right? So you better watch for the little smoke spots and just a match going off. So it's okay to look at, Nanny, and track, because Le'Veon Bell also tweeted out something after the game, like, I'm confused. What does that mean? Can you have? Is that going to lead to something, or is that going to get squelched right away and they shut him up in the locker room? They cannot have negativity right now. It's one of the things that makes him so good. Great confidence, great accountability, great teamwork, things that aren't normal for NFL teams, because this is the not-for-long league. This is the league where the agents are telling you, don't care about anybody on your team, just get your money, because you're only going to be getting good money for 1 contract or 3 years. You've heard it all, Danny. These are just a bunch of independent contractors working together. Chiefs fans don't want to hear that, but the NFL players talk about it. They say we're just an independent contractor who could get cut tomorrow and no one cares. So the Chiefs have been flawless about having teamwork and the love of a team like we want as fans for them to do, to fight for the old Chiefs. And so bringing on Le'Veon Bell was always a risk. They could cut him in 5 seconds. It's no big deal. But I saw that tweet, heard Mahomes' comments, and say, okay, let's see if anything happens further or if it just goes away.
Absolutely the case. Let's talk a little bit about the Steelers now dropped the game, and you did touch on that. I was asked Friday by Seren Petro what team I thought matched up worse for the Chiefs, and the Raiders obviously have been a rough matchup for the Chiefs, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So I'm and especially after yesterday. So they likely are not going to make the playoffs. I still see the Titans as the team right now with the Steelers kind of struggling. All the Steelers can certainly get it back, but on their own on the Chiefs field, I don't see it. But the Titans, to me, with Derrick Henry and the style of play, not like anybody's a great threat to the Chiefs, but I would select the Titans. Where are you right now?
Yeah, I would pick the Titans as well, slightly over the rest. And one of the things is because of how they play, but also just how ready are they to play in playoff football. You know, for instance, when the Houston Texans came around last year, I didn't think that they were ready to step it up and play at a playoff level. The Buffalo Bills lost to the Texans, and I don't know how it happened. I mean, they had such a better football team and so many advantages, but they just gave that game away. Is Buffalo ready now? I think they'll be better, and they're trending up. But I do think, Danny, even if you squeeze back to the Raiders, you know, you look all the way down the line to the Raiders, you're going to pick a team that's not going to make the playoffs, either the Raiders, the Dolphins, or the Ravens are not going to make the playoffs. Two of those three are not going to make the playoffs, likely. The New England Patriots aren't going to make the playoffs. So when you look around, I'm going to say this. The second-place team in the AFC, however you define it, Danny, the second-best team, the second-best threat to the Chiefs, all the way down to the last playoff team, the seventh best, you could throw them in a bag and just pull them out, and I'm not going to find a lot of differential in them because I do think the Steelers have a mentality that playoff football is different than regular season football, so I think they'll be more feisty in the playoffs than they have been the last couple of games, but they're not a great football team. They've had a lot of injuries on the defensive side. They can't run the ball. They have to dink and dunk. Roethlisberger is throwing the ball so quickly, and they drop the ball more than anybody in the NFL. So it's okay if you throw short passes if you catch them, but they drop the ball all the time. So they're really struggling right now going into the playoffs. I think the Colts are solidifying themselves. They would be a feisty team in the playoffs, would not be intimidated by the Chiefs. The Raiders won't be intimidated by the Chiefs if they were to make it. The Patriots won't be intimidated by the Chiefs, but they're not going to make it either. So what do you think about the Ravens? They could be feisty. They could be, but the Chiefs, if they get the number one seed, aren't going to have to deal with that. That seventh-place team is going to go to Pittsburgh, and the Ravens may go to Pittsburgh and win the ball game. I would say that from 2 to 7 to even 8, 9, or 10 is hardly any difference right now. But I will pick the Titans as the team that I would think would fight through it better than others and be the hardest team for the Chiefs to beat because they've been there before. They were in a championship game last year. You know, they've been around. I think the coaching that they have is closest to the New England style. You know, you finally have an assistant who's kind of being able to replicate a little bit of what Bill Belichick did. I like Tannehill as a winner. And then Henry and the physicality that they play with, yes, my pick is without influence by you even, Danny. I'm right with you. I would pick the Titans as the most dangerous team in the AFC after the Chiefs.
That's Dan Weber. We are talking football on a Monday, as we always do on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, brought to you by NoNonsenseHealthCareNinja.com. And some college news. Missouri Tigers had a rough day, but they've still got time to replicate some of the good play they've had earlier this season, and some interesting coaching news as well. We'll talk about that coming up next with Stan.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Firsthand, I have enjoyed the benefits of the CBD products from Canaway. My back feels better and better these days, as a major part of my routine are the pain-relieving salve and the Pure Gold oil. And recently I had the pleasure of a treatment session using the Canaway CBD in conjunction with the Microlight 830 cold laser. The non-invasive treatment session worked wonders, and I could barely tell I was even being touched. TML 830 is the first 3B cold laser to get FDA approval, and in addition, the combination treatment with CBD is patent pending. The new smart laser is the only hands-free cold laser in the world and is used by athletic trainers, chiropractors, MDs, physical therapists, and veterinarians everywhere. You can learn more about all the great benefits from the complete line of Canaway CBD products by contacting my friend Sherry McCants at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312 to get outstanding information about Canaway.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Llewellyn from 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. I just want to thank everybody for supporting local restaurants during this time of uncertainty. 23rd Street Brewery is now open until this pandemic is over. And right now, more than anything, local restaurants need your help and support. Come on out and see us. 23rd Street Brewery is open now from 11:30 till 9 o'clock for dine-in and carry-out. Whatever we can do to help you out, maybe with your catering needs, too. I appreciate all the support, and thank you for continuing to shop local.
Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from WrecExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit RecExpert.com and learn more. Let's spend a minute with Dr. Brad Woodle, who, along with his wife, Dr. Christina Woodle, the owners of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, my home for chiropractic care. And first of all, just tell us about the wide range of services you offer.
Danny, we offer comprehensive chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapy, and rehab. We do a very thorough examination, x-rays on site as necessary, and we have a full rehabilitation department, so we can help out with exercises, stretches, different therapies for the complex, but also the very simple conditions we treat.
You have been deemed essential and have remained open all through this COVID-19 process. What are some of the things you've done to make sure that was the case?
From the very beginning, in March, we started to make sure that we were cleaning and sanitizing with EPA-registered sanitizing products. We also implemented masks way before the state required them. We implemented a parking lot waiting room, took out half of the chairs in our waiting room, and made sure to space out visits so we could appropriately meet, discuss, and also screen patients to make sure we were taking care of healthy people.
Find out more about Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture and how they can help you at ASFCA.com. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. We are back talking football on a Monday, as we always do, and it is fun. Stan's got a lot of basketball on his plate as well, but Monday is for football for a little while here. And let's talk about the college game. And Missouri Tigers put up about 20 minutes of a fight against Georgia, maybe 25. And then the Bulldogs, who did show up to play, they jumped to a 14-0 lead, and then they just put the hammer down, as Mitch Holthus would say, on the Tigers. I think we talked about it both on Saturday on College Game Day and on this podcast last week about the fact that there was really no downside in this game for Missouri. After watching the way it went, any different reason for concern?
Not a lot. I think that the defense obviously could not slow down Georgia. And so, maybe you want to get into the fact that Arkansas went up and down the field against the Tigers, and then you saw a really physical Georgia team able to do the same with their running backs going up and down the field. So I think you have to note that and say what's happening to the defense, and will they be able to slow that down and get back to playing some decent defense? Because I don't think Missouri has looked that bad on defense this year. They've played okay. Modern football does not really require a ton of defense, Danny. You can go out and give your 27 points up and not blink an eye like you had a bad day. You're just like, okay, we got 27, but we scored 39. We won. Who cares? We played good today. We got a turnover. So let's watch that trend line, because Mississippi State has trouble scoring. They're not running the Mike Leach system to a level that gets them 40 points like a Texas Tech team. They're struggling to get over 20 points. But if Missouri's defense is going to let teams move the ball up and down the field for the rest of the year, suddenly you bring a whole new aspect in with Mississippi State. The game's on the road. So the defense is where I'd have a question. I don't have any problem with the offense, Danny, or a question about the redshirt freshman or anything else. Georgia's defense is really good when things are going well for them. And when they started separating, it was going well. When Missouri blocked that punt, and basically tied the game up at that point. I go, here we go. I was thinking about you, Danny. Go, here we go. Didn't unfold exactly like they want, or maybe it unfolded exactly like you may wish. Danny, you often point out a team that gets an easy lead early and is a favorite on the road, in that kind of environment. They kept telling us it's like the coldest game Georgia's played by temperature in a long, long time. And suddenly you're on them. You're back and you're tied and you block the punt. I go, uh-oh, here we go. And you got to credit Georgia for that next drive, scoring, separating, and stuffing the game down Missouri's throat, saying we got this thing. We're physical. So this week, I think now becomes much more interesting, Danny. We were in that mode without a doubt going into the game, saying everything to gain and nothing to lose by playing Georgia for Mizzou. And I thought they were in a good position to fight and not get demoralized. I think that's true. They didn't get demoralized. They had nothing to lose. But now, all that winning streak and all those good things about finishing the season in such a great mode, it's going to be a great season for Missouri. It's just going to be very acceptable no matter what happens. But now I think there's a little pressure because they're better than Mississippi State. So they do need to go down and take care of business. And when a lot of other people are just talking about championship games, Missouri's got that one extra game. I think it just adds intrigue to me. I think Missouri's better and should find a way to win this game against Mississippi State. But if the defense, Danny, can't get teams off the field and Mike Leach's offense woke up a little bit, the thing about Mike Leach's offense, it doesn't go from scoring 17 points a game to scoring 27, at a Big Ten. Or, heck, that's a pretty big percentage. 10 over 17 is a pretty big percentage. But that's not the way Mike Leach does it. Remember the LSU game? 600 yards passing against LSU. I mean, it's kind of all or nothing when things work. So that's the thing to watch out for. What happens if the defense can't slow down Mississippi State and they wake up and start playing Mike Leach football? There's a little room for demoralization in here and to not end the way they want. If they lose 35-24 or something and don't stop Mississippi State, it could not be a good finish for the year. So I'm not going to blow up Missouri and say it's a bad season. No way. It's been a very good season. But this game has a lot of intrigue and I think some pressure for the Tigers. They need to win this thing.
Let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about K-State. It becomes increasingly likely they're going to play a bowl game as teams opt out. 3 teams now from the ACC are not going to accept a bowl invitation if it was offered, or they've already said don't offer it to us. Virginia, the latest to do that. So the Cats seem more likely to get that opportunity to play in a bowl, which is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing. This is really going to be hard to sort out because it's not about the things that it's ever been before. You mentioned something like, hey, those teams have opted out. You probably also know that LSU opted out. You can say opted out. What they did is they took some probation type of heat and said, we're going to penalize our football team and not let them go to a bowl game this year as part of what the results might be in an investigation about their football team. So the NCAA's around and LSU is another team. But it used to be you had to win 6 games to be bowl eligible, and you had 1 million bowls, and we were going to add 2 or 3 this year, Danny. So you didn't have enough teams with 6 wins. So if you met bowl eligibility, it didn't matter which conference that they dropped out, you can move up the ladder. That's really not the case now. Everyone's eligible. So it's all about the contracts that you have in your conference. So I think an ACC loss of team does not affect K-State at all. The question is, do they have the contracts in place? I think the answer is they got 7 spots for their team, and I think K-State will be one of the 7 selected to go to a bowl game. But it's going to be very interesting, a quick turnaround. They won't find out till December 20th, next Sunday, Danny, of what bowl they're going to and who their opponent's going to be. It's like the NCAA tournament. You realize they're going to play 6 days later? K-State's going to play on December 26th if they go to a bowl game. It's kind of weird. Usually you got all this time to prepare. Like you get extra weeks and all this time to practice. And this year, it's going to be just the opposite. Like, who's our opponent? When is the tape coming in? It reminds me of NCAA tournament selection Sunday so much. But what will K-State do? Will K-State be invited to a bowl? Will one of the bowls fold and say we don't want to play this year? So much up in the air, Danny, about what's going to happen with it. But if K-State is able to play, I think they got the same questions that I just said about Missouri. What happened to the defense? What are they going to do? How do you get a confidence level in your defense after almost every possession has been a score and most of them touchdowns for the second half of the Baylor game and then all the way through the Texas game? So K-State has not stopped anybody. And sometimes when you just don't have answers, the players forget that there are answers. Remember we talked about the Chiefs in the first segment, not losing their confidence, being ones that just look at the final score and say, we're okay. That's good. You don't want your players to start questioning themselves. We as fans can do that, but we don't want the players to do it. And right now, you've got to think that the K-State defensive players are wondering, is anything ever going to go right? I mean, we ever going to make someone have third and long? Is it always going to be second and one? First down on that play, easy third down conversions. Only once in a while do you get a chance to play on third down. We'll see, and see if K-State can get something from it. I'm excited about it, Danny. I think it's an honor to go to a bowl game. It won't be a big trip with a long-dated time period. When K-State goes to a bowl game, if they play on December 26th, which is the most likely bowl either in Phoenix in the baseball stadium or in Dallas at SMU Stadium, those two are the most likely bowl games they'll go to. They're both December 26th. K-State will fly out, I believe, on December 25th morning. It will be just like a road game.
Right.
Go, play, come home. So the excitement level and all those things, I don't feel it, oozing. I'm sitting in Manhattan, Kansas right now, getting ready to travel with the basketball team. I have to tell you, it's not the normal feeling of a football season. Like, hey, who are we going to play in the bowl game? Can't wait to go have that great pep rally. We're going to travel a ton of fans, more than almost anybody does in the bowl season. That's not available. So it's so quiet, very quiet right now. We'll see how they respond to that.
Let's talk about how SEC football operates and how seriously they take it. Gus Malzahn got fired. He just went 6-4 in an all-SEC season. His winning record in the SEC playing in the West is .591 winning percentage. He's won almost 70% of his games overall. He's 3-5 against Nick Saban, and they owe him $21 million, and they still fired him. I just have to feel like that there's something, and this has been an ongoing conversation. By those numbers I just ticked off and those facts, there is no way in the world a guy should get fired. So there must be something else going on, but it's pretty amazing for a guy with that kind of resume to get canned.
Danny, you went down a nice group of statements, and you never mentioned COVID. There's still this question asked often, well, will this COVID season protect some coaches? Will this be a free year? We see no one fired around the country, and then we see South Carolina fire their coach before the season ends. Yeah, that's SEC again. I don't know. There are plenty of cases where people say the buyout, to buy out the coach if they let him go, or how much they're going to have to pay him the rest of the way, plus the buyout they're going to have to get to the guy that they're going to bring in is so much in this COVID-related time period. How are we going to get the money? Our athletic department didn't get NCAA tournament money. There's not big money from the television like before, and we don't get game receipts and beer sales and all that. And yet, we're seeing a number of coaching changes. Maybe there's less. I mean, maybe there'll be 10 or 15 guys that will be protected who would have been let go. But isn't that amazing? Where on that resume do you have a real problem, Danny?
No,
they didn't
nowhere.
win a national championship again? I mean, look, you're in Alabama and LSU's division, and you're right. These non-con games, remember, the SEC gets 4 non-con games, and getting those 4 extra wins sure sounds a lot better. What did you say their record was?
6-4.
6-4. 6-4, and so let's give them 1-1 and take away that they would have been 5-3 in conference, won 4 non-con games, so they'd be 9-3 right now, ranked 16th in the country, and you'd be upset about it. So. Now, it's been building. They're just, their neighbors are talking about another national championship, Danny. That's the problem. Right. Their neighbors. Hey, how you doing today? You getting ready for Christmas? Get the hell out of here, Alabama fan. I don't want to say hi to you. It's an unfair evaluation, but his resume's good. What surprises me is just how many of these coaches are going and when they're going and, how they're getting let go. You would think that there'd be financial reasons or humanistic reasons with this COVID to not hold these coaches quite as accountable as they are. But there they go. I mean, what's going to happen to Jim Harbaugh? Did Tom Herman make it? It sounds like Tom Herman.
Yeah, the AD came out.
Yeah, I mean, the reports are that way. But I read a quote from the AD, and it was like, we talk about it at the end of the season. That's a lot different than he said, yes, he's coming back. But I'm going to go with the flow. I've read plenty of places that they said Tom Herman's coming back, but I always enjoy talking to you, Danny, because you've had, most of the time we've been face-to-face, throughout our careers, and you've always been able to have that look on your face of skepticism. Whenever you talk about something being idealistic and just right about college athletics, student athletes and all this stuff, you always have, that look like, well, let's follow the money. Let's talk about winning is everything, those kind of things. And here we are, even in a COVID-affected year. Still, a lot of that's true. But the conferences have led the way. They've been the embarrassment last week, Danny, the last couple of weeks. I mean, it's just been, how about the Big Ten, just changing the rules in the middle of it to just help out Ohio State. I read a guy in the West Coast who said, why doesn't the Pac-12 just say we're not going to have a championship game? Because there's really no true opponent for USC. Their resume is as good as it gets. Why would you place it at risk? How about at Florida, the coach after the game saying, something in the tune of, why do we play these games? Because it's just better to sit on the side like Ohio State and act like you're great by not playing versus putting it at risk. And Florida got beat by LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. These teams that are avoiding chances to lose, to me, is just low class. Get your team out there. Why didn't Ohio State and another Big Ten line up and play? Why didn't they do that? Florida got blown up by LSU because they played the game. And I credit Florida, the SEC, the Big 12 for putting it on the line. And unlike the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, who've just totally botched this thing all the way.
Stan, always a pleasure on a Monday, always a pleasure on a Saturday, and we've got one more college game day, and safe travels to Ames.
Hey, Danny, have a great week. Football season's not done, and basketball's heating it up, so it's a good time of year, and Christmas right around the corner. Take care, Danny. Great talking to you.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
NoNonsenseHealthcareNinja.com, specializing in expert healthcare guidance and assistance for you.